So our next guest is an alumna PYP. Today, she is the Deputy District Attorney for Multnomah County. Please welcome Leslie Wu. Leslie?
Hello, good morning, everyone. I'd like to take you to 3 moments in my life. The first, I was on my 6th witness. It was 4 p.m. on a Monday, first day of trial. And that 6th witness was a woman who worked at Fred Meyer, and on the day that the incident had happened, she had a normal day at work when a man came in with what looked like a black handgun, running through the store, terrorizing her and the other people at the store. And that morning at 8 a.m., she'd come in for trial. And I had met with her because I was going to be the prosecutor on the case that day. And here in Multnomah County, we don't get a ton of time to prep with witnesses, so at 8 a.m., she came in with the other 6 witnesses, and we sat in a circle, and I asked them to tell me a little bit of what had happened to try and ease the nerves. As you know, public speaking, it doesn't come normally for all people, and for her, she was one of those people who was feeling the nerves. During witness prep, she started crying about the incident. I offered her Kleenex. I looked at my watch. I realized I had 20 minutes to get her ready to sit on a wood bench outside the courtroom all day and wait to testify. By the time 4 p.m. rolled around, we'd gone through each witness, and I watched her enter when it was her time to testify, and she was holding it together pretty well. We went through direct examination. Things were flowing smoothly, and then we got to cross, and I could see the tears welling up in her eyes again. I could hear her voice quiver. And finally, when I got up to do redirect, I could feel my throat catch too. And I knew that this was going to be an impactful moment, and I knew that I needed to hold it together for her. I want to take you to a second moment. I had a jury impaneled on an assault trial, and I was on my 2nd witness. And this witness was a woman on a cleaning crew. And she and her 2 other coworkers had been, on the day of the incident, cleaning an HVAC machine. And the defendant came over. He was angry and yelling, and he threatened her and punched one of her coworkers in the face. She told me the story of how she ran inside to the restaurant. And when she got on the stand, I had her tell that story again, except this time, a new detail came out. She started talking about how after the punch happened, she ran inside to the restaurant and hid underneath one of the tables, and she called police. And she noted that she didn't come out and talk to the police officers. The defense attorney asked about that. Why didn't you talk to the police officers? And she admitted that she had a warrant out for her arrest. That's why she hid. She never talked to any police officers, and I could hear when that moment came out in trial, I could hear the defense attorney right behind me slam his hand down on the table. He was trying to emphasize that fact to the jury. And I got up and asked her about her fear in that moment and why she didn't come out and how she was feeling, recovering from that somewhat damaging fact. I want to take you to one final moment. There's a sheet of paper hanging outside of a classroom, and it lists the excerpts that you're going to have to perform in a few moments. It's the blind auditions for PYP. And I went through, I think, a grand total of 6 of these. When you walk in and you look at that sheet of paper outside the classroom where people are warming up, you can hear the melodies of the excerpts. Some of them that you've practiced more, some that you've practiced less. And you go into that room among everyone else warming up, you pull out your violin, and you're so nervous. You start practicing, trying to remember what was that fingering arrangement that my teacher came up with for this one. And finally, it's your turn to go into the room, and you walk in, and there's a screen out. All you can see are the feet of David Hatner and the other judges on the panel. And there's a single music stand in the center of the room with the sight reading piece on it. And you walk in and you hear a voice come up from the screen saying the scale that you're going to need to play, the arpeggio that you need to play, the minor key that you're going to have to convert it to. And then, after you've managed that feat, you play the excerpts that you've practiced, and finally, you turn to the sight reading in front of you. And I remember hearing one of the judges say, "Take your time." And I did. I took what felt like 40 full minutes staring at that piece of music to sight read. And I remember holding my violin underneath my arm and trying to practice silently to myself as the air grew heavier and thicker. And I think at one point in my last one of the judges said, "Anytime you're ready." And finally, you pull up your violin under your chin and you take a deep breath. And I want to take you all to that moment of anxiety and nerves and excitement when you start. Those moments are so rare. And you get to experience them when you're in PYP. You get to prepare for them in the rest of your life when you're in PYP. As you heard, my name's Leslie Wu. I'm an alumna of PYP. I played violin in the orchestra with YSE for 2 years, PICO for 2 years, and PYP for 2 years. And I also am a deputy district attorney now here in Multnomah County. I'm a trial attorney. And I'm here to tell you the story of the youths who go through PYP and end up not doing music professionally. And I'm here to tell you that PYP has a huge impact on kids like me who end up doing something different and who end up using the experiences that we gain when we're in PYP in our life. And I'm gonna show off that I'm a millennial now because my notes are on a cell phone that I've prepared. So give me one moment. For those of you who don't know about what a prosecutor does, at least in a city like Portland, it involves long hours, about 100 felony cases at any given month, and it involves public speaking almost the entire day, every single day. I average about a trial a month and about 3 grand jury proceedings a day, not to brag. And nothing prepared me quite like PYP did, because as crazy as it sounds, nothing is quite as nerve-wracking as the blind auditions for Portland Youth Philharmonic. I still have not experienced anything quite like those. And learning to perform through my nerves during those auditions is just one of many things that I took into my life as a prosecutor. Along with that, when you're a musician in PYP, you become part of a family. For me, that was especially true because my older brothers had been in the orchestra. And I remember being really young and going to a concert with my mom and sitting in the cheering section for my brother Michael playing cello and PICO. We would listen to each other's concerts at the concert at Christmas, and I remember sitting in a group of YSE musicians way up in the nosebleed section of the Arlene Schnitzer Concert Hall and seeing my brother Matthew play violin in the big kid orchestra, PYP. And when I got into PYP, I was so excited to carry my own music with me, to carry on the tradition that our family had done. And I remember in my first few months as a prosecutor, I met someone at my workplace who had been in PYP too. He immediately became like an older brother to me in our work. And on our most stressful days when we needed to decompress from trials, he would pull up an embarrassing YouTube video of him performing one of his concertos. We'd take notes on it and exchange stories. And when I told him actually that I'd be speaking here, he was pretty jazzed for me, pun intended. He's currently deployed in Qatar. Hi, Mike Lee. Hopefully you're watching this and making fun of me to your friends in Qatar. As a trial attorney, I'm under pressure to perform. And it's me standing up alone in 8 hours during a trial day in court. But when I'm at my lowest or most nervous, I pull on the feelings that I had when I was a musician in PYP. I imagine sitting among a sea of other students like me, a sea of other students who are also different from me and have different backgrounds. And I remember working as a team. I remember working in sectionals and annotating music. And even today, when I write an opening statement or a closing argument, I put crescendos and decrescendos to remember the phrasing for myself. I use the skills that I built as a PYP musician in my life now. So above all, I'd like to communicate this, regardless of whether you become a professional musician or an attorney. PYP is an experience that every kid should have. When you're on stage with 60 of your friends, it forges a special bond. It allows you to connect to people. It allows you to feel that you're working towards one creative vision together. And it allows you to go through performance nerves, the excitement of a performance, the excitement of trial. Together, you get to shed tears when Elgar's Nimrod plays, when all the seniors graduate from PYP. And those feelings end up following you through life, through all of the hard things that you might have to do in the future. And just think about how many people could tell this same story that I'm telling years after they're in PYP, but don't get to because they don't have the opportunity to take violin lessons like I did, or to learn from great musicians like I did. I hope that today you'll all be generous and think about all of the kids that you're giving those opportunities to. What happens during this drive could make a difference to hundreds of kids, thousands of kids. And I was so grateful for what PYP did for me and the experiences it gave me, and I'm hopeful that those experiences will be continued and passed on to kids in the future.